Welcome to our next episode of Visionary New Earth Leaders podcast. And today we have a wonderful guest here who I'm going to let her introduce herself. Her name is beautiful Rosalyn, and I'm just going to hand it straight over to you, darling, and just tell us who you are and what you're doing as well.
Thank you so much, Jenny. So hi, everyone. I'm Rosalyn Fung. I am an Akashic visibility business coach. So I specialize in visibility, client attraction, and soulful selling. I'm a former psychologist, and I just really love to support others, specifically coaches and who are life coaches and spiritual coaches, to get out their own way and boldly and unapologetically show up. So really being authentic, really being in that, to me, bold is, and we'll dive deeper into this, Jenny.
Sure.
Bold is really like being vulnerable publicly in a way that connects us with others or others to us, right? That's like a huge magnetic factor. And again, we can jam a little bit more about this. But what I'd love to do is actually open up the Akashic Records for those of you who are listening right now. And really, what are the Akashic Records? It's the records of your soul. It's a book of life. And so when we open up, I'm channeling masters, teachers, and loved ones, which are your angels, your guides. And so what I'm hoping to do as I open up the Akashic Records is for, as you tune into this beautiful, powerful, potent conversation about being bold and unapologetic, that you receive the codes, the downloads, the ideas to come through to activate you, to ignite your fire, and really help you step into your next level of bold and unapologetic, whether that's in your personal life. And I mean, really, how you do one part of your life is how you do all parts of your life, right? And it's going to really expand into your professional life. So, perfect. All right. So how this works is I open up with a prayer, and we're accessing God consciousness. And you may, depending as you're listening, if you're very sensitive to energy, you might feel the energy of the records opening up. There's no right or wrong. So we're just going to really allow whatever come through to come through. And if you're not feeling anything, all good. All right. So taking a breath in and out. God, divine source, and light energy, thank you for allowing us to experience your pure love through the Akash. May all be blessed through the divine of the Akash for the highest good. May divine beings of light help us receive what is required for our most divine path and to support the divine path of others. Please help those listeners here who are open and willing to experience the pure love found here. Beautiful. We are now in the records. And so what I'm feeling is this beautiful, it's almost like a vortex. Jenny, can you feel that? It's just like an image of like this beautiful vortex starting to conjure in. And as we're going to have this conversation, it's just going to be really beautiful that we're conduits for what needs to come through. Yeah. So you can go ahead and take it away. Feel free to share anything that's coming through for you too.
So what I was getting when we were doing it felt like quite a wide opening of energy, like it's almost like like you said, like a vortex, but more like a landing space. So like, here is a landing space where you can now go and explore and take what you need. Kind of this, energy of everything is available here. What would you like to explore? So it felt quite, open like that and inviting. The actual energy of it. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So let's dive deep into our conversation today.
Yeah. So I love this that we've opened the Akashic Records, because actually what we could do, we are talking about being bold. We're talking about being magnetic. The topic of today is about visibility and things like that. So why don't we go deep into the spiritual part of the entrepreneurs, because this podcast is for entrepreneurs, visionary new earth leaders, or business owners who wants to expand their spiritual gifts and to kind of want to become more advanced. So maybe we should tune into some messages for that, because the world is going through this huge change. There's a lot of fear attached to outcomes and things, because we're still kind of stuck in the old paradigm when it comes to abundance and just things like that. So what's the message? I mean, I'll ask you.
Well, what wants to come through is that there are some of you who are really desiring to come out of the spiritual closet.
Yeah.
Some of you are wanting to and I'm hearing because your audience are mostly entrepreneurs, spiritual entrepreneurs, right, Jenny? Yeah. So there's still some quite a bit of hiding that often is happening. And so if this is a message that's coming through that's landing for you in any way, it could be related to this lifetime, it could be related to past lifetime, a different dimension right now. But it's there's a fear of really showing up. And when I say showing up, I mean really sharing all of who you are. That thing that you actually want to say, and then it's but I'm scared that people are going to judge me. I'm scared that I'm going to be crucified if I actually say that. And it's that people-pleasing part of us doesn't want to ruffle any feathers, right? And so we kind of leave things vanilla. We don't say anything. And particularly what I see with my clients is that this is exactly the situation. For example, I have a client who's going to be running a masterclass. So I teach people how to speak and sell as well. And so I was going over her masterclass with her yesterday, and we were going over the PowerPoint as well. And I'm like, girl, I don't see you. You are so funny. You are so quirky. And she calls herself weird. And I mean, we're all weird in our own way, right?
That's
this presentation looks too corporate-y, and that is not your vibe. That's not what we are attracting. And so she's like, you are so right. This is not me. And I was like, what is it that you really want to say here? What kind of pictures do you actually want to put here? If you want to put a weird, spacey cat picture, do that, because that's so much more your vibe. And that's what the magnetic factor is when we just show up as ourselves and really put ourselves out there, because we're sharing our message. We are the messengers in the way that we deliver it. We hold codes for our people. I always say, if you're not polarizing, that means you're not going bold enough. And I do not mean polarizing in terms of putting people down, none of that vibe. I'm not even available for that, right? But more so, you're really showing up. I know that I'm not for everybody. I know, Jenny, you and I were talking about that. I literally I practice what I preach. And I am very confident. I love myself, and I'm here. I have no problems telling people how much I love myself. And I'm never going to stop doing the inner work. So the journey home is a lifetime, right? And so, and maybe just because I'm sure a lot of the people who are listening right now or watching, you don't really know me. So let me tell you my story, because I was not always like this. So picture this. It's 2008. It's I'm on a bodybuilding competition stage, and I have this quote unquote perfect fitness model physique. And on the outside, my life looks just as perfect. I just started private practice as a psychologist. I'm a newlywed. I'm still very happily married with my husband of almost 17 years. We just renewed our vows on Inca Trail in Peru, which was so magical. And I was a second-degree black belt in karate and then role model to kids, teens, and adults. So very confident. So I believed in myself, in the things, in what I could do. Okay, my abilities. That's what confidence is. It's related to abilities. But inside, I was crumbling. I never felt good enough. I never felt like I looked lean enough, even though I had flat abs and like this chiseled body. I just was beating myself up and then restricting my food, binge eating, feeling guilty, beating myself up, and purging my overexercising. And so on that day in stage, I came in last place. And that was so devastating. Jenny, I was not woke back then. I was like really good at everything I did. You know, I was really good as a therapist, but like looking at my own stuff, I hadn't done a lot of self work. And so that was the beautiful, well, messy breakdown to the beautiful breakthrough. And I was led to learn about this method called Haikomi. And what it means is, how do I stand in a relationship with myself? And how do I stand in a relationship with others? Because if you think about it, we're always in relationship. So right now, we're even in relationship with the listeners, right? You're tuning in right now. We're in a relationship with spirit. We're in a relationship, you and I, with each other right now, Jenny. And so it's like, how am I showing up? And this is an approach that brings in mindfulness. So it's mindfulness, neuroscience, psychology, and this thing called spirituality. And it goes really deep into the subconscious. So you can quickly shift these beliefs. But I was not aware. So I learned, because when you're learning something, you cannot not work on your own stuff. That was consciously operating from this belief that I'm valued in my doingness. So my performance, my status, my titles, how much money I'm making, all the quote unquote societal success. And so for me, those of you who are listening, I'm Asian, I'm Chinese of background. And in our culture, it's very, very much emphasized that you are, working towards a certain status, right? Be a doctor, an engineer, those higher status societal jobs. And so my really thought that my value was in my doingness rather than my beingness, who I am. And my doingness was never enough. So I was this overachiever, this hardcore perfectionist, and a very hardcore type A personality is like, no pain, no gain. And so that was the beginning of my journey coming home to myself. And I learned how to really embrace perfectly imperfects, the art of slowing down, and really just being, valuing who I am. So I had lots of confidence, but very low self-worth. Mm-hmm. And Haikomi changed my life so much. I got certified in it at that point in time. I got certified in eating psychology, and I became the go-to psychologist in the town that I was in the city. And then I worked with so many incredible women who were just like me, struggling with disordered eating, not eating disorder. So we weren't meeting the criteria to meet that diagnosis of an eating disorder. But for most of us as women, we at some point in our life have struggled with body image. I mean, to this day, it's still like women's number one hang up. And I remember a statistic I would often talk about when I was going out and doing talks to different audiences. And it was like 95% of 5-year-old girls started to diet because they thought that the best thing to be was skinny. And so I'm just like, that is so sad. I want to change that. Anyway, fast forward, I became the first psychologist in my province to create an online program in 2015. That was a lot of red tape. It's very strict in Canada. But I'm a badass, a trailblazer. And I'm like, no, we're going to figure it out legally and ethically. And then Spirit opened more doors. And at this point, I'm still not super woke. I'm like, but you know that feeling, Jenny, when you're like, oh my God, something is happening here. I got to follow this nudge. I got to follow it. I didn't let my ego get in the way. I just followed it. And then I got my first international speaking gig. I got on a cover of a magazine, on a magazine cover for a women's fitness community. And I got to write a 4-page article on how to flex your self-love muscle. I'm like, whoa. And so from here, a lot of women started to write me and wanted to work with me, but I couldn't because they're writing from outside of the province I was licensed in. So it was very heartbreaking for me because I'm like, I can help, but I can't because I'm held back by my license. And what I ended up doing was diving deeper into my inner work. I manifested an accountability buddy. I went to work on my money mindset. This was back in 2016. Manifested a 7-figure award-winning business coach as my accountability buddy. Can't make that stuff up, right? And then of course, she was there for her own stuff and we became friends. I hired her. That was one of the scariest investments I've ever made because at that point I never invested in anything except for university.
Yeah.
And so I started a self-love coaching business and bet on myself, went all in. I never meant to retire as a psychologist, but what happened was I realized how not only held back I was by the license in terms of who I could work with, but by my fullest self-expression. At this point, I was a multidimensional healer. I freaking love on people. And, I'm just fully expressive. And I just want to be able to celebrate people. And I just realized I can just really show up to hold space in the way that I want and work it how I want. And I'm like, this is so much more fun. So much more fun. And so since then, my business has, as I have personally, Bob, I will never stop doing the inner work. So today I am a multidimensional healer, Akashic. I always open the Akashic Records, even as a business coach. I'm a shamanic practitioner. So all of the alchemy of me comes in to support my clients. And so it's been a wild ride, but my pain to my purpose is now be who you are, fully express, create and do life and business from who you authentically are so that you can have all that you desire. Not, do this first and then you can be happy.
Well, it's like not being compromised, It's not about being uncompromised and completely being fully in your true energy. But most people actually don't know how to do that. How do you be in your full authentic energy naturally? Because we're so programmed to what you said, with the society programming and things. What would be a really good, because I always like to educate the listeners,
Yes.
and I have my own experience, you have your own experience, but when it comes to being bold, and we talked about that word in the beginning, when it comes to become bold and unapologetic online, to me, I'm just going to sort of reflect it back. To me, it means to basically on a daily basis really connect deeply with myself so that I know what energy I'm in that day and being truthfully me. Because the ego can go, yeah, but I'm going to do these photo shoots and I'm going to be unapologetically me. But what does that really mean? How would you describe it? To me, it's like I am in stillness, connecting with who I truly am. And that would be a different flavor to someone else. Do you know what I mean?
1,000%. Well, I want to start off with, this is a great conversation. At the very core of us, we want to feel love, safe, and belong. And so, of course, then to put out who we really are means risking disapproval. We're risking people judging us, right? And so what I believe it really means is asking ourselves, if it was completely safe to be me in this world, how would I show up? Who would I be? How would I say things? How would I deliver it? That feels like me. I don't have to be trying. This is just who I am. This is just how I operate in the world, in this place of love. And to me, I really think that the most important thing to really, like, one of the concepts that helps me become who I am is understanding victim consciousness versus taking radical responsibility, right? So victim is life is happening to me, and we're very much in blame of self or others. And in taking, I'm going to say, radical responsibility, there's like the level of, radical responsibility from a personal, and then at the highest level is spiritual. And like, life is happening for me and through me. So even when things are not, like, the circumstances are not in our favor, it's like, okay, here I am showing up. For example, I'm going to put this in concrete terms, showing up boldly as who I am, and I am very much a person who loves to celebrate. I know I vibrate in joy. I know I show up very happy, but I'm also very dynamic. I am a person who has softness to her. And people, when they get to really know me, see that. I will do Facebook Lives with me crying in vulnerability because I'm so touched by something, and it's really coming from the place of, I am in my light. I'm not here carrying that somebody's going to judge me for crying. I'm not here carrying that I just said something very bold, because it's about me being in my, taking a stand from my highest, connecting with my highest self and taking a stand in that. There's a difference between connecting in with your highest self and taking a stand in that versus, let's say, when it comes to visibility, some people, or social media, let's say, some people are posting to get love. It's their inner child posting to get attention. And attention not for the right reasons, not from a higher place, but like to heal, like they're still projecting.
To get the attention. Yeah.
And so that stuff needs to be healed. I mean, there's no judgment around that. That just is information. It's like, okay, so when we are showing up, are we doing it from a place of love? So we're doing it from a place to give love, we're in the energy of love and light, or are we doing it to get love? Yeah, so that's where the people pleasing can happen. That's where we're not really speaking our truth. We're not really showing up as who we authentically are. We're, and some of us might not be conscious about it, but we're pretending. We think we need to be a certain way, even in business, and we need to be showing up so that people can take us seriously.
No, that's so true. What comes to me as well here, it's like, yes, they're totally feeling safe, validated, feeling loved, trust, belonging. I get all those things. But they are primal, I would say, leavers, right? Because we come into this planet on our own and we leave on our own. So like, to me, it's, yes, I can really see that, how that is just how the humans sort of, like, how we're going, we're in crowds, we like to belong in, we're going to the caves together, and, it's like a primal thing. But truly, because if we wanted to stay in that the whole time, as in, like, let's feel safe, loved, and belonging, that means then that we are muting ourselves, like, to do that. So how can we be unapologetically, boldly ourselves without having the fear of that? Like, knowing that we belong anyway, knowing that we are loved and safe anyway, knowing that we have those, that we are fine, regardless of what we say. Like, that's the trick, right? So what would you say there? I mean, I could ask a question, but like you tell.
Yes, I love it. So I think it's grounding in our values. Like what are our values? What's our why? Why were we created here in this lifetime? What is our soul purpose? And that's going to look and feel different for everybody. Some people's purpose is going to be massive and huge impacts, and others are going to be quietly massive and huge impacts. Though, right? Like think about a janitor. You know, they're a very different visibility than someone like ourselves, a coach, right? So not better or worse, just different. But impacts a janitor have, the impacts a teacher can have, so huge, right? And so it's like just different ways of impact. They're impacting different people. They may have different values. So coming back to our audience here, what is our why? Why do we, like, what's our mission? And really grounding in ourselves in that, because as you share yourself aligned with your values, like you embody your values. So people can feel that energy doesn't lie. And so when you embody your values, the words come through. And as they come through, whether you write that on social media, because a huge part of my business is I help people create content that converts. And so it's like finding your actual voice and how would you say that? How would that person say that? You guys might do the same thing, but you have different energy signatures. And you are going to say it in your voice tone because only your people can hear you, right? And so it's like being able to understand, and you both might have different values. You have different standpoints. And so when you share your values, your people are going to align with that because they have the same shared values as well.
And you know, this is so interesting because energy never lies. So I often get clients who come into my world who has a similar background to me. Yeah. I do massage and, you know, physio, sort of like sports and Thai massage and like really physical therapy. I used to for years. And some of my clients come in, they are like massage therapists, but like coach now. So I'm just kind of throwing it out there, how we have molded ourselves and how we are showing up in the world. I may never even say it, but those people don't even know, especially the ones that come in lately. And it's like energy beyond that word and who we are is telling us everything. So I believe, look, this is the way I look at it. Showing up online is not just being boldly and sort of, what you call it? Unapologetic. Just truly being yourself, like really truly not filtering what you're saying, but just allowing that energy, that light shining through to who you really are, whether you're saying who you are, like as in like categorizing or not, it's going to be magnetic in itself. It's when we start filtering ourselves and hold back, there is something off, and then people are like, there's something off. They don't even know what it is, and then they can't feel you properly.
It's so true. It's so true. Your frequency isn't turned on, right?
And no, it's not turned on really because they're filtering themselves.
Yeah. It literally is, and it doesn't mean you're louder. It means that you are in full expression. So for some of you might have a softer, quieter expression, and yet your words, your energy introduces yourself.
It's dynamic or like really magnetic. Yeah.
Yes, there's the difference between, you know, look at me, pay attention to me. Energy, we all can feel that.
So that's a different energy of showing up from a place.
And yeah, that's the energy of I'm showing up to get love rather than love, right?
Yeah, be love.
Just in that be love space or give love space, it feels really different. It's the people feel pulled in, right? It's like, okay, I want to lean in more. I want to lean in more and like tune in. And that's energy we want to be in. When you were speaking, of course, I lost my train of thought, but something wanted to come through. I'm sure it'll come through again. But yeah, energy is really important. And it's really also really important to I want to say this point, not spiritually bypass. It is really important to share. Here's a big tip in terms of like posting is share things from a place of, when I say vulnerability, don't mean like airing your dirty laundry. No, don't do that, please. That's repelling.
Don't share the wounds, just, show your scars, really.
Exactly. That's a beautiful way to put it. It's like sharing something that's tender and, that's been on your heart. You can be in the moment if you're like, sometimes people can be, and I'm sometimes okay to do this, but like being in the moment of sharing what's been on my heart and what I'm experiencing in this moment, or wait till you're done that and you like have received the lessons from it, that one day you'll share this story from a place of really potent power and you've moved through that, right? And so it depends on how well you can regulate yourself. All emotions are healthy, even the ones that don't feel good. And we want to actually lean into our triggers because everything is neutral until you put meaning to it. So I'm just trying to think of examples. Okay, so for example, when I show up boldly and unapologetically, I know I am not for everybody. I just know that. And I have had to learn how to be okay with that. And that means deepening my self-worth. I know that not everybody is for me. There are certain people that I'm like, yeah, great, not my vibe. That's all right. That doesn't make them a bad person. It's just not my vibe. We're not in the same frequency. Totally all good. It's nothing personal. And so I want you all to hear that, when you show up in your like as yourself, and of course, how do we get triggered? Relationships, right?
Yeah, cool.
Are judging us. People are saying, trying to squish our light or whatever it is. And that might not be intentional. It really isn't. We can talk about sister wounds, right? Like it's not intentional, but often what happens is in the journey of building your business, whether it's putting yourself out there, be more visible, asking for the sale, receiving the money. Oh my God, all our shit can come up. Business is a deep personal and spiritual journey. Right. And this is about being able to watch what isn't neutral, what in me arises as a trigger. And then it's my responsibility to take care of that by having my own healers, coach, therapist, whatever that is, going to Jenny, right? Like be able to process whatever's coming up so that it can be neutralized, because usually it's related when clients come see me for that stuff. It's usually related to inner child, subconscious beliefs, right? Related to being in that family, because when we are in our babies and we're growing up in our families, we want to feel loved, safe, and belong. Remember that. And so we're going to try to fit in, and we unconsciously create all these strategies to fit into our family system. And based on that, that reinforces our ways of being. And then at some point, it's like this life jacket we created for ourselves doesn't fit anymore, usually as an adult. So it's like time to upgrade that, right? And so it's really important to stay very self-aware and work through your stuff with your person, your professional that's going to support you and do that. Sometimes it's also related to past life. So with visibility blocks, when I'm in the Akashic Records with some clients, what I see is they were killed for showing up and being visible and doing good, And so in this lifetime, that pattern has passed on.
It's a phrase, isn't it, in that DNA, and they can't even put a finger on it. I mean, I do the same, do a lot of past life everything about even taking vows of saying, I will not show up. Do you know what I mean? Just to stay safe, to stay alive. And that was obviously something that the dark produced, because it was how it was. So to come out into the light and be unapologetically us, as spiritual leaders, visionary leaders, creating a new way of being and creating business as well. I'd say almost like it takes spiritual confidence, like being confident in your spirituality. It's like growing yourself so comfortable in your spiritual skin that nothing matters. Like you don't have to worry about what people say because this is me. And that takes a little bit of time. I mean, maybe you want to share your own spiritual journey. I mean, I was in the spiritual closet myself. Originally, but obviously now I have not been in the spiritual closet for probably 15, 20 years, right? But
oh my gosh, I feel like this I'm gonna be another episode to share my spiritual journey.
I might share your journey because some people be like, well, I'm still in the closet. Oh, come on a little bit, but I'm not sure where I'm going, you know? So it always helps to share.
Totally. Long story short, I grew up being terrified of psychics, terrified of haunted houses, like even the fake ones. I couldn't even go to carnivals and be like, I just can't. Like everything in my body on a physiological level was like freaking out. And I remember I was on mat leave at the tail end of my mat leave as I was still a psychologist at this point with my now 11-year-old son.
Oh.
And my colleague who owned the private practice where we were at got us together for a psychic party, like colleagues and friends of colleagues. And the women that were there, they were acquaintances to me, not my colleagues, but their friends. And they were talking, they were like us now, right? They were like, oh yeah, I saw spirit, I had experience of spirit. Oh, and this one woman said, one time, I came home with my boyfriend and he lived in a house where it was like, there was a spirit there and the spirit made us rice. I'm like, what? And then I'm freaking out. Like my whole body is like having these like I'm hyperventilating. Oh, patience. I'm self-aware to know that this is an overreaction. There's something happening in my body, but I couldn't logically make sense of it. I started to cry. I'm like, what do you mean? Did you eat the rice? Why are you not freaking out? Like I couldn't understand. And she's like, yeah, it was delicious. It was like this fragrant jasmine. She's talking about like it was no big deal. And then I started to cry. I hadn't seen the psychic yet. We were taking our turns in the and so I was so freaked out that when it came to my turn to go see the psychic, I was like asking the owner, who's a very good friend of mine, to come with me. And then I mustered enough courage to do it by myself. And this was the second experience I've had with a psychic. I had just turned 30 at this time. And on my 30th birthday, I went to go see a psychic. And I was so scared, but I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. Because people are like, they can't tell you anything bad. I'm like, oh. That was funny. I was so scared about them telling me something bad. I don't know why. And so what that psychic at the psychology party was like, you don't have to be afraid. Because I said, do you know what? I'm like, okay, she's psychic. She'll know what just happened. So I said, do you know what just happened 10 minutes ago? And she's tuning in. She's like, yeah, you don't have to be afraid. I'm like, okay, she's all right. Okay. That's good. She's plugged in. Yeah. So she couldn't quite tell me why I, was so afraid. But a couple days later, my good friend came to visit. And she had become a psychic herself. She had like buried it due to sexual abuse. And then she like learned that she had these potent powers and actually went for training in it. And then she came back, she goes, I started telling her exactly the story. And within a minute, she stopped saying, she's like, Roz, I see you trying to open the door and your parents are on the other side saying, not until you calm down. And immediately my body had a visceral response of remembrance. I had a flashback. I was like, I remember being there. I was like 4 or 5. She's like, yeah. I said, what happened? And she's like, were you living in a place that wasn't yours? I was like, yeah, I was 4 years old. I just moved to Calgary and in Alberta, Canada. And we were renting a house because we were having the house I ended up growing up in being built. And so she's like, you saw an earthbound ghost. As soon as she said that, I remembered. It was like a flashback. And this man, it very much looks like a normal human being, overweight man. I still can see him wearing trousers and plaid shirt, beard, yelling at us to get out of his place. And my parents, of course, couldn't see, but I could. And my parents thought I was having a meltdown because they're atheists. They don't know anything about this. And they locked me in the room with the ghost. So no wonder I was like,
oh my God,
stored trauma, because trauma stored in the body on a cellar. And all this time, up until I was 30, I didn't realize why I was so scared to be of ghosts, of psychics, of like haunted houses, even fake ones. And then that day, I immediately hired my girlfriend, who's like a shamanic healer. And, you know, I started my spiritual journey. I said, oh my God, I have abilities. Okay, I have to learn. I have to overcome my fears. I don't want to start crying. And I became a Reiki master, and that opened me up even more. And that was part of my journey. And then in 2019, I was actually, of all places, I was at a Christian conference because I was with a woman that I was doing business with, and we became really good friends. And she had found religion to, we'll say, save her. And I couldn't deny all these signs that God was around. And it's just like miracle signs that started to happen. And I'm like, she's like, hey, come with me to this Christian conference. So I'm like, oh, okay, because I'm in this new relationship with God. I grew up in the Catholic school, by the way, because my parents thought, hey, it's going to be safer. But we never practiced. And so I've always believed in God. And so this was like, but I was always afraid to say I believe in God because I didn't want to come across as someone who was imposing religion. I've had experience of people imposing religion on me. And so I was like, also very like resistant. And then I came to this conference and I was being blessed by the pastor. And they had put, it was a woman, she had put her palm on my forehead and said, repeat after me. I believe in in the Lord. I believe in the Lord's gift of the tongue or something like that. And at this point, I've heard of a couple friends speaking light language, and I always felt like, wow. And I felt like I could one day do that. So light language is language that comes from divine and only our soul can understand. So she started speaking in tongues and I'm just listening. And then she goes, no, repeat after me. I'm like, oh. And then I started trying to repeat after her. And then my mouth started doing something different. And she goes, that's yours. I'm like, oh my God.
So you opened up the channel.
She opened up the channel for me. And tongues doesn't quite resonate for me. So light language does. I'm actually very connected with the Palladians. And so that's how beautiful it comes through though, right? And so I was hiding in the spiritual closet, though, about my light language because I'm like, oh my God, is this going to discredit me? Are people going to think I'm weird? You know, I'm now a business coach. Like, are people going to? And so I actually it was interesting. I was working with a client and I was helping her start her business. And we were trying to figure out her niche. And I was like, wait a minute. I'm your ideal client. Language. And so I hired her and she helped me build my confidence because I knew light language. I just didn't understand it and I didn't want to quote anyone with it. I didn't know anything about it. I'm like, kid, that's right. That is good. But it took me a while and I had to get through my own stuff around, is this going to discredit me? And so I'm like, well, no, like, this is just so much love. When I speak it to people and they're just like, holy, can you speak?
What am I feeling? You know, it's like transmission. Yeah.
So healing. And so I learned that, again, this is another part of me being fully myself in full expression. That this is the thing that polarizes people and magnetizes. So certain people are going to be repelled. Certain people are going to be.
Yeah. Well, it's authentic. So yeah.
Like my light language videos on my Instagram at Bold Sexy Warrior are like the most popular reels I have, right? It just people love it so much. And so I've learned that even more, there's always this next level of vulnerability, right? That we can always move into. And it's up to us. And I'm not saying that we all have to go out there if you speak light language. You got to.
But whatever it is that is coming through, just share it. Like literally. I mean, I've been dipping in and out of light language and it's kind of comes through with my work with my clients. I haven't stopped, really, but not because I think I shouldn't be doing them reels, more just like, I don't know. Do you know what I mean? It's not holding back anything. But no, this is it, right? This is about us really allowing ourselves to be free and trusting that whatever the energy is that we want to show up, it is saying, and it's going to actually bring us into alignment.
Absolutely. It is so cool and so powerful. And it is always up to us. We don't have to. But if there is a nudge, if the dream is within you, it's for you. And if there's a nudge to want to explore, I mean, we can always go back. I say have the attitude of experimentation, as long as you're from a place of love, safety, just like have that attitude, right? We can change. It's just like, we're not meant to live a mediocre life. We are put here to play big, to really go all in. And we are really doing not only ourselves a disservice, but others a disservice when we are holding ourselves back, when we are people pleasing, when we're not doing our own inner work to get to that next level of who we really are. Like unbecoming, right? I'm taking all of it and just being like, who am I? This constant like questioning of who am I? How should I show up today? That's aligned with my values, as aligned with who I really am. If the world is really safe for me to show up as who I am, how am I going to do that?
Exactly. So to bring this lovely and amazing and very energizing conversation to an end, where would people find you if they want to get in touch or get something like a freebie or
Yes, thank you. So easy way. I love social media, of course. So if you're on Instagram, Bold Sexy Warrior, Rosalyn Fung, Coaching Bold Sexy Warrior on Facebook. I mean, all my links are on my website, rosalynfung.com, ROSALYNFUNG, like have some fun with the G. If you feel called to do an Akashic Soul session, absolutely book in. I have a freebie it's a masterclass called How to Boldly and Unapologetically Market Your Coaching Business and Attract Your Full Body as Clients. So you can find that on my website or DM me.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Rosalyn, for spending the time with us, and thank you everyone for watching and listening in. We love you. We really admire that you're here. It's great.
Before we close, let's close the record. So I just want to say thank you, masters, teachers, and loved ones, for allowing us to experience the pure love found here. The records are now closed. Amen. And thank you so much, Jenny, for having me. I've just had so much fun jamming with you. And I'd love for the audience to just DM me and share your takeaways with me. I just love hearing it, or post them in comments.
Thanks for your heart.
Awesome. Thank you.